We're back with part 2 of this rescuing a very flat exposure, which I did up in the northeast of England on the coast to Dunstan's Break. You can see where we started from. That's how far we've got with just a few layers, a few bits of blend mode, and some really soft, wafty, easy to do masking. I'm going to make this into a group, so I'm going to select it all, drag it down onto that file down there. It'll make it into a group, and I'm going to call it part 1. So it's part 1, it's all together. You can do the same. It's in the pass-through blend mode at 100%. Don't forget, you've got the opacity. You can actually play around with the opacity of that whole group as one now. And what else you can do in here? We can play around forever. We can go and have a look at the blend modes. So you've got blend mode options available to that, and you're working with all those layers as one group now. So you've got that option. You can always copy that part 1 and do crazy things to it. Let's go back to pass-through. Okay, I'm going to call a brightness and contrast adjustment layer over to that. Click that little icon up there because I want to work on this beach still just down here, and I want to bring it up a bit brighter. I don't want it too contrasty. I'm going to knock some of that contrast out without losing all that lovely luminosity in the beach. As I just play around with the sliders to taste. I'm not going to quote numbers at you. Don't forget you've got your opacity slider to fine-tune things. We can work on this mask. I can invert the mask. Control-I, Command-I will invert that mask, and we can paint through white paint. If black is your foreground, hit the X key. X will toggle through to the white like so, and then we can waft about on this black mask. I'm working at 30% opacity. You might want to work on more. I find 30% works for me, and just really being creative with the painting and just painting on that mask. Let's just alt click on the mask there, and you can see what we've done. To get out of this, just click on the eye icon next to it. That'll get it back to looking how it should. So that's what we've done. Needs a bit of tidying up. Just reduce the size of square brackets, the left hand side or the right hand side, to increase or decrease. Black paint, of course, so we can hit the X key to go from white to black, and just tidy that up. Right, I'm going to do a stamped copy of these layers. You should know it by now. Shift Control Alt T, Shift Command Option E will give you a stamped copy layer of all those layers underneath. I've put it into multiply blend mode. It's looking pretty freaky. Let's just double click in the blue area. So double click in the blue, bring up the layer style box. I'm going to knock out some of that darkness behind the clouds. I want those clouds to be hanging there, some big black clouds to be hanging in the sky. So I'm going to take out some of that multiply blend mode in the sky by sliding that slider. Alt click on the slider to split them, don't forget. I'm going to put a mask on again because I want to mask out this foreground here, and I'm working at 30% again with black and just wafting some paint into that mask as easy as that. We're not using selections, we're not using lasso tools or any other tools, we're just using a big old squishy paintbrush, painting in there. And you can see what we're doing in there. You've got the opacity, of course. You could also go in and change the density of the mask if you wanted to, just by double clicking on the mask itself, and that will bring up the properties box. And let's go back into this image, because what I'm going to do again is stamp another copy. I'm going to say one more time, Shift Control Alt T, Shift Command Option E will give you a stamped copy of all the layers underneath. Straight into a hard light blend mode, so you get some pretty ritzy colours that go in there. Double click in the blue area again, so double click in there, it brings up the layer style box. Let's have a look around, see what I want to do. I can style that slide. You can see that it knocks out those pixels from that layer, and if we drag from the white ones down, we can see it knocks out the white pixels there. So Alt click on it, Option click on it if you're on a Mac. That'll split those sliders, and we get a nice gradation of what's happening in the sky there. And I put invert mask on this one, so Alt click on your mask icon. That will give you an invert mask, and just work on that beach there. So really getting those clouds to stand out a bit more on the beach, nice and dark and ominous. Really just little brush strokes, keeping the brush a nice size. 30% opacity, remember. So we've worked in that. Looking good, in fact. And stamped copy again. So it's just a Shift Control Alt T. I'm not going to say this again. Shift Control Alt T, Shift Command Option E, straight into multiply blend mode. I've desaturated that one. Shift Control U, Shift Command U to desaturate. And this time working at 50%. Press the 5 on your keyboard. That'll change the opacity of your paintbrush. Hit the R3. I'm just really going to get some kind of vignette effect going on here. So I'm just painting again in the middle where I want to. Just brightening around where the castle is there. Just making it dark and ominous and bleak and cold and wet, just like it was, and just really how I remember this scene. I don't remember being flat grey. I remember being quite stark and brisk. So that's where we started from, and that's where we've ended up. just using copy layers, a few crafty blend modes, a bit of knockout pixels and some wafty mass. Looking good. And don't forget, it's all flexible. If you do it this way in layers, every layer you have is editable. So you've got the opacity. Don't forget you've got the density of the mask as well. Just double click in your mask. That'll bring up the mask dialog box. You can reduce the density of your mask. Play around with the opacity of the whole layers if you want to. Say this is a PSD. Come back into it and then play around with your blend modes in it again. Let's just bin that. I didn't want that one. I wanted a hue saturation because I really want to just choose the hand tool and just pump up that orange. So drag it to the right, and I want to take out that blue there because remember it was a grey bleak day, but it had the beach there. So that might be a bit too strong for some people. As I said, all these layers are now editable. You've got the opacity in each one. This is where we started off from, of course, remember, and we had a lot of layers in part 1. Go back to part 1 again and go through it, have a look through. Remember what we've done in this one, we just group those layers together just to get them out of the way. Here they are all in the group. Just click on that little arrow, drop down arrow, and that shows you again. Remember, again, those are editable as well. So everything in this is completely editable now. You can go back in, you can tickle around, opacities up and down, blend modes hither and thither. So that really has been a run through of how to rescue a flat, horrible exposure basically, and get it into something which is punchy and as well as I remember it. Anyway, thanks for looking again. Until the next time, that's bye for now.